Hi, Phil. Welcome to our Funnel Vision podcast. Thrilled to have you on and hear your expertise, advice, and tips for our community of sales professionals. First question. What is the one go-to tactic that you swear by for building long-lasting client relationships, like your secret weapon that you don't even want to tell your best friend since it's such a good hidden secret?
Am I really allowed to answer that question since I can't tell my friends, Alana?
You can get we won't tell anybody.
Promise. Okay. It's I think it's really simple. It's don't be reactive. We all, as sales reps, what are we? We are reactive, right? We're reactive when we are calling to sell something or our client has a problem. We just don't call clients when or prospects when we don't need something. And that's proactive. And so, yeah, I mean, it's the biggest, the single best tactic I can tell a sales rep is be proactive, not reactive. Have that mindset of proactivity.
I love that. That makes a lot of sense. And what's the best piece of sales advice you've received that shaped your philosophy and who did it come from?
So, this one I think comes from a bunch of people. And, when I first thought about this one, I went back to a person. Well, let me answer the question and then I'm going to take you back. So, the answer to it is just be simple and intentional. And if you're simple and intentional, it prevents highs and lows and it keeps that mindset. When I first thought about the question, I went to something which then went back to simple and intentional, actually. So years ago, I met a guy named Pat Quigley. Pat Quigley has a sales consulting company called Sales by Design. He worked with the pest control industry, still does. And Pat said he believed not in contact lists, and he went through a very, very structured formula of what we call touch strategy, which is we only have so much time. And so, how much time do we have? What is the average touch point? How often are you touching a person? And formulaically deciding what we're going, how many people can we have? And by the way, let's think about it for a second. If I'm selling to you or you're one of my prospects and I reach out to you 12 times a year versus 4 times a year, does it take the same amount of time? Of course it doesn't. So one contact, people say, I can have 300 contacts. Well, that's not true. So he goes by this touch strategy. Well, you know what? Some people would say that's complicated. I say it's not. I say it's simple and it's intentional. It's the intentionality, it's that simplicity. If I know what I'm doing and I do it over and over, rinse and repeat, then I
Hmm.
don't have those highs, I don't have those lows, I go right in between, and it goes back. And so when I hear those things from like Pat Quigley, I hear the same thing from Alex Goldfein, a noted author, and the mind behind what we call outgrow. All those things are about mindset, simple, and intentionality. And so to me, that's the best piece of sales advice that I have and that I try to live by.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it seems like that theme kind of comes across, all the way through being simple, intentional, proactive. Absolutely. And what do you say? What is the best investment a salesperson can make?
It's kind of the corny answer, but it's, build your network and don't look for quick fixes. It's those lasting relationships, it's the lasting things that matter. And the investment that you can make, because that's an investment, right? That doesn't yield right away. What is the definition of an investment? Something that takes time. It's not like day trading.
Hmm. Absolutely. And building up your network is that's going to pay off for years to come. It's who you know and, keeping those relationships active, warm, staying top of mind.
And let me ask you, I mean, isn't that the definition of an investment?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Investing the time and the energy and being, for me, it's also being, all those things that you're saying, intentional, simple, keeping it top of mind, providing great information, being, creating long-lasting relationships. That's the best investment. It's the only investment. Well, too. It's
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
the
right.
most important.
Yeah. So, yeah, that to me, that's what matters. And with those relationships comes your personal growth too. So,
Yeah.
because you're around really, really good people who care about you and you care about them. And so you know, to me, that also has a lot to do with personal growth.
Yeah. And also, you find over the years when you first start out and then as you grow as a salesperson too, it's, also you're growing your network, but you're growing the quality of your network. You're leveling up your network as you're growing as a professional and then just meeting different people and it is not a, go out and network and meet people. It's, it's something that you do over time. It takes a long time. It's, but it's worth every penny, and all the relationships, friendships, and everything else that comes out of that is, all leads to great business too.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. What's something that you say a salesperson should stop doing immediately?
This is one's, really easy. It's stop thinking that everybody owes you a call back. I think back to back in my days when I was managing the sales force at my pest control company that we had for 34 years. And we had a sales rep, just call her Mary. And Mary would just get infuriated that people wouldn't call her back. And I would say, like, people are busy. Like, don't you know that they've got 10 people calling them every day? If they called everybody back, everybody, they wouldn't get their job done. Like, they don't, what you need to be is top of mind. You need to be different. You need to give them a reason to call you back, but not expect it. And by the way, never come across that way when you leave a message that you expect it. So when I think about that, what I like to say is, while I say that, I'm going to also say to any sales rep, you need to be persistent, but not insistent.
That's great.
And with being persistent and not insistent, the technique that I latched onto, and then again, this comes straight from Alex Goldfein. And it's mind blowing. The data behind this is incredible, and challenge anybody watching this podcast to go out and try this next week if you're not already doing it. And that is, leave a voicemail, quick, short, and sweet. Hi Alana, I was with another client, was thinking about you, wanted to chat, tell you, see what's going on in your world. Give me a call, 609-947-4503. And then immediately follow it with a text message. Just left you VM. Love to talk to you this afternoon at 4 p.m. or tomorrow morning. Alana. Or,
Yeah.
right? When you do the voice and the text, the return rate goes up to 70%. If you leave just
Wow.
a voicemail, it's what, 20, 30%. Let's, generally speaking. Even people that we know, it's not always. And if we just text somebody, it's not always. Put the two together, it's 70%. And it is ridiculously stupid. Go back to the earlier question you asked, right? So it's simple, right? So that's persistent but intentional. Knowing that people are busy and you're not their priority.
Right.
And not expecting them to call you back. But if you do it the right way, they will.
Yeah. What's your thought on, using the phone versus using email for these touch points?
Yeah. So let me ask you a crazy question. So when was the last call that you got that was just calling from, somebody that was trying to do business with you, or a connector that just called to say hi? In the last few weeks, can you remember one that called
Not
you?
one. Yeah.
Has anybody, what was the last time somebody, I'm sure that somebody has called you at some point in the last year of trying to do business with you. Can you think of any? Think hard for a second.
Yeah. Yeah. I've
Who was it?
Yeah, a recruiting company that, wants to partner with us and to, sell us a,
Give me
recruiting
the name of
software.
the person's, give me the person's first name, or make it
Michael.
Michael. And
Mhm.
where were you when Michael called you?
I was in my office.
Huh. And what were you doing when he called you?
I was actually just getting off of another call. I remember he called. I was getting off another call and, picked it up.
Hmm. Right? And did the call last? Can you remember how long the call lasted?
I don't know, 7 to 10 minutes.
And I bet you can tell me some details about the call, right? Without, we don't, right? Sure.
Absolutely.
When did this call
Absolutely.
take place? How long ago?
About, let's say, 2 months ago.
Oh. And what email did you read 2 months ago on that day?
Probably hundreds. Probably hundreds. I have no idea.
And I think so. Yeah. So right. So do you remember any specific one on that day? Do you remember any of those specific emails?
Not one.
What do you think then about email versus voice?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's worth the extra time, effort, and everything to pick up the phone. Simple, right? Just pick up
Yeah.
the phone, make a call. Even if you don't talk to the person, you leave a voicemail, they hear your voice. It just comes across so much differently and better and you know than just sending an email.
I think it just reminds me of going back to my I'll date myself, my early years of sales in 1984. Right? We had nothing but the phone. We didn't. Email was just starting. I mean, we're going back to the basics because we don't. So, gosh, Alana, we were just talking about email and technology and all that stuff. And of course, what happens? My internet goes out. It's 2025, and we rely on so much on technology. It's crazy when that happens, but it's a different world. So if we get a chance to see and peek at where even when we're doing something like this, where we have to thank God for editing, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, we're all good here. So, Phil, what's one piece of advice you'd wish you've learned earlier in your sales career, and how do you think that aspiring salespeople can apply it today?
So I would say pay it forward and be a
Yeah.
resource. You know, the again, you go back to something that I would an earlier question, or something that we were talking about, which is being proactive and not reactive, right? If we're proactive, and this is the advice I give to any sales rep, again, get out of that reactive mode, being intentional. But if you're not keeping score, because most people keep score. One of my favorite books is Never Eat Alone, and it's not a sales book, but it's a book of, again, the word I use over and over again, of proactivity. You know, building up your network, building up the people that can move you forward, but definitely not keeping score, because so many people keep score. That's why, I mean, maybe I shouldn't say it, but I'm not a fan of like BNIs in this world, because in there we keep score.
Yeah.
Everything's about keeping score. How many do I give you? Did you give me?
Right.
Those are not my real. I don't need that. If I got a great connector, I don't need that. So I guess some people need that. BNI is great for a lot of people. And BNI does a great job with a lot of things. So I'm not knocking BNI in any way, shape, or form because I think, a lot of people get a lot out of it. In my world, I'm not doing that. I'm not going in there to keep score. I want to be proactive. I want to be a resource to people, be able to help them when they need it, and when they go to. And the people I think of the most and are the most successful do it exactly that way, and they're never looking for anything in return.
Yeah. It's at Talent Harbor, that's one of our core values is go giver. Be a go giver. I'm not sure if you've read the book Go Giver, but that's one of our core values. Pay it forward. Be a resource. It's not about keeping tabs, keeping score, and all of that. It's about being a resource, doing things for other people. Helping improve other people. And we do that, with our clients, with our candidates that we work with, and just in general. And it's so important to us. Like that, it's one of our core values, or actually core behaviors we call them. But yeah.
And how gratifying is that?
It's it. It's if it's a truly a core behavior and something that you believe in, that's, you get so much value and gratification just from paying it forward, from doing good things for other people, from just making it simple connections, within your network. And it's not all about like keeping tabs, A told B and B told C. It's about just doing the right thing, which is another one of our core values is go giver and do the right thing. And that we're very big believers in that.
Awesome.
Yeah. Who do you look up to, Phil?
So, a tough question. I sat back and really thought about this one. And it's really, the person it's a simple answer, and it's a guy named Ed Robinson. Ed is in Frederick, Maryland. I've known Ed for 20 plus years. He's a Vistage chair. He is just an amazing person. He's the kind of person that you would love because why do I look up to him? Well, one, he calls it like it is. When I'm saying something, he'll call me out. Like if
Hmm.
I say something that's offline, he's unwavering in that. He's unwavering in his convictions, and he's never afraid to challenge me, which I love. But at the same time, he's always paying it forward, and he's paying it forward with me. He's paying it forward with his clients. And what blows me away with Ed is the depth of his knowledge of so many topics. He's probably one of the most well-read people I've ever met. And you can ask him any topic, just about, and within seconds, he can give you PDFs, links to videos. It is staggering. I went to his office one day and said, like, how do you do this, dude? Like I've never seen anything like it. So I do look up to him because I try to say, if I could be half of what Ed is to me, to other people, I know I'm going to win.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. He sounds like an amazing guy. I've heard his name, kind of just networking and everything else. So that's awesome. So
Yeah.
Phil, tell us who are you? Where can people find you? Tell us a little bit about what you do, so we can kind of hear that.
So, of course, Phil Cooper. Um, and you can find me on LinkedIn. So, Philip D. Cooper with two L's. So, easy to find me out there. And I do, ultimately, Alana, what I love doing. Well, I had 34 years in pest control. We had a family-owned pest control company in the Jersey area. I live, outside of Philly and also in Annapolis, Maryland. So most of my business work is in the Annapolis, Baltimore, Washington area. But it's about impact. My life now is, I tried retiring for 3 months and gave that up. I'm never going to retire. And it's about impacting others. I impact others through implementing the entrepreneurial operating system, EOS, traction, as known by Gino Wickman. I work with companies to help them grow their top line revenue 15 to 30% with proactive stuff. So a lot of the things we spoke about earlier come with that. That's called outgrow. And then finally, we help service industries, which is kind of cool. Just service-based companies work with their entry-level frontline managers managing their people in the field. And and turn them into rock stars to make their people great. It's just the coolest program in the world. It's for an underserved population, that entry level that never gets it. And we call that accelerated gross profit. So it's impacting others, and that's about me.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming on. I appreciate your time and all of your fantastic advice.
Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. Bye.